All right, and welcome back to another edition of Cowboys Gameplan. We're gonna go straight into bye week kind of stuff. So let's kick it off with this. We're gonna talk about the two trades that the Dallas Cowboys made: the seventh rounder for Logan Wilson, and then the second rounder for this year, and then the first rounder for next year, and Mozzie Smith for Quinnen Williams. And then on top of that, we'll kind of talk about some other transaction moves like Malik Davis being signed and everything like that. But I'm your host, Slayer James, and right across from me, I got my co-host Mike as usual. And yeah, let's get right into it. I know you're kind of hyped up about Logan Wilson, so let's kind of start there. How do you feel about that first trade that the Dallas made at the deadline?
I think you remember it's probably been a month ago now. I watched Logan Wilson in a game and I was like, man, I want that guy. And this was before, he'd even mentioned anything about leaving the team or the possibility of a trade with him even arose in the league or in social media or anything like that. Just because watching him play, he always plays square against the offense.
Mm-hmm.
He knows what's going on. He predicts what's going to happen based on the movements in the backfield, and he's very good at diagnosing plays. And I was like, man, I really want that kind of a linebacker for us because with the defense that we're trying to run with Eberflus, that's what we need. We need that guy who can control the middle of the field between the hash marks, and that's what I saw in him. So when that trade happened, I was really excited. Now, obviously, this isn't, the kind of linebacker that's going to change the entire defense, but it does strengthen the middle of the defense, and that is totally essential. I will do a film breakdown on him during the bye week, and you'll see what I saw, but just a couple of notes that I watched initially with that guy. And here's what I'll do. I'll do the first two games of the season, and the reason why I like that is because that's when everybody's scheme is at its strongest. That's when the players have the most confidence. They're the most healthy they're going to be, and they're well rested and they're ready to go. So you're going to get the best of their best on those first two games of the season. Before things start to go wrong or somebody gets hurt, you get a little banged up, get a little bruised up, ego gets a little hurt. Your desire to play wanes a little bit because your team is bad or whatever. Those things happen. It has an impact. There are people just like us. So to say it doesn't is wrong.
Yeah, well, I mean,
But
oh, go ahead.
what just the two notes that I noticed is when he's in the middle of that defense, nobody throws across the middle. The tight ends do not take over games that he's in because if the quarterback looks up and looks down the stripes, down the seams, guess what they see? They see 55, 15 yards in front of them, staring at him. I'm dead serious, and I'll show you this in the clips that I've been watching. Man, he controls the middle of that. So the only way you can throw over the middle is you have to do something with your offense in order to clear him out of there because he's that good in coverage. He's good at diagnosing plays, but he may not be the best athlete as far as getting to running plays that swing to the outside or anything like that. But if you're going to pass over the middle, you're going to try anything in between the seams right there. You've got to deal with him, and that's exactly what we need, especially with the pieces we have around us. So I'm really excited about that, and I'll do a film study.
Yeah, the one thing I didn't mean to cut you off, but the one
No, you're
things
fine.
that Cowboys fans are complaining about is like, well, why did you trade for him? Why did you just give up a seventh round pick? I'm like, how many seventh round picks really turn out to be
Yeah.
worth anything? It's
How many
kind of
hit? Yeah.
it's a
For
freebie. Like, why are
yeah.
we
Oh yeah. It's
complaining
a
about this?
guaranteed. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
want Yeah, you want Jerry to make moves, and when he makes a move, you're like, oh, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Everybody's a GM.
yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I love the trade of Logan Wilson. I think anything better, especially with Overshown coming back. I think to pair him with a linebacker like that, who's obviously not going to be the quickest guy to the ball, but who can sniff out plays better and who can at least be going the right direction from the get go instead of being delayed on counters and all that, then realizing what's going on, will be a huge help. It'll be interesting to see what happens with our linebacker room because you're going to have Overshown return, you're going to have Logan Wilson return, and then Sanborn's on the IR, but you got Shamir James, who, of course, you've drafted him, so you're going to put a little bit more love into him than a guy like Kenneth Murray, who you signed. And on top of all that, you got to find a way to get this linebacker core back up and going. I mean, it never got going from the start of the year, but You got to
Right.
find a way in the second half of the season to hopefully get a spark out of them. Hopefully to make it to where, like you said, right? Like tight ends do not want to be running across the middle of that field, or tight ends do not want to be interfering with our two linebackers. So, I,
Right.
I I love the trade. I mean, I know we're kind of half a week from removed from it, but it's still a great move from looking at it day in day out.
Yeah, I mean, it just helps. It creates depth, and if you look at Dallas's linebackers historically, there's always that middle linebacker that's kind of like the cerebral assassin.
Hmm.
He diagnoses plays. He knows what's going to happen. He can get everybody where they need to be. He knows the assignment. He knows the defensive play calls and rules. So he knows where he needs to be. He's that center point that is old reliable. He's going to be where he needs to be. He's going to make you aware of where you need to be lined up in front of him and do all of those things. That's what he's good at, and that's the payoff. We've got some decent athletes at linebacker that are on the field now. We'll talk about what's coming after the bye, but I think with Kenneth Murray and Jack Sanborn, I think they have the knowledge. I just don't know if they ever hit that level of development that makes them a leader in the defense and a leader from that position, because as a middle linebacker, that's what you have to be. You have to be, you're in the middle, you see what's in front of you, and you know what needs to be happening behind you. It's your job to keep all that in its place and keep it organized and let everybody know what's about to happen, to the best of your ability. Somebody who's going to study and watch film and watch tape and know habits and be like, oh, I know exactly what they're going to try to do. He runs up to the line, smacks a guy over, moves that guy over, and then, tells the cornerbacks, hey, this is what's coming. Those are the kind of things we need. We don't have much of that. We have everybody cross communicating because nobody is confident in that one guy in the middle of the defense that's going to get everybody where they need to be. And I hope that's going to be what he does for us, because that's what he appeared to do in Cincinnati. So Jack Sanborn and Kenneth Murray are just going to have to maybe take a seat in the back of this car and maybe watch and learn. It can help them.
Yeah,
And the rest of the linebacker core is pretty talented.
yeah. I mean, for them to take a back seat and enjoy the ride here for a moment, they've already had their first half of the season to try to prove that, hey, we didn't need to make these moves, or hey, at the deadline we don't need to target this. But obviously that's not true, right? Kenneth Murray
Right.
came in on an experiment, and of course Sanborn was Eberflus guy coming in again on an experiment kind of thing here. I love the trade, and I can't believe that even when the morning started with that trade in the afternoon or midday, we got into the Quinnen Williams part two of this whole entire trade deadline. So Cowboys gave up second rounder, first rounder, which it's either the best of either the Green Bay one or the Dallas one, and then finally sent off Mozzie Smith. I'm not a hater on players. I don't like it. It's not a personal hate for Mozzie Smith, but
Sure.
at this point, it doesn't work with us in Dallas. It never has worked with us in Dallas. So I wish him the best going to New York. But Quinnen Williams is about to bring something different to this defense, whether how they've somehow fit all three of them on the field. And I know you were talking to me about how Eberflus really likes what you said, five fronts.
I've got some depth chart
Yeah.
talk here. I can't help myself. I recreated a depth chart. I just
Yeah.
a student of the game, man. I gotta dig around and play with a little bit.
Well,
So
especially when you start to look at, and we'll get back to Quinn Williams, but when you start to look at everyone who's coming back and on top of the trades we made, you're looking at potentially up to 4 to 6 new defensive starters by week 11, week 12, when we're getting into the back half of this season. So this defense is going to look completely different, right? You're going to get Overshown back, you're going to get Logan Wilson, and then you're going to get Quinn Williams on the field, and on top of that, you're going to get Ravel back, and so that's already 4 guys, right? And then you could get Hooker and Wilson and get healthy too. So this defense has a chance to maybe not be 32nd anymore. We can at least get to top 25, and that's all I'm looking for.
yeah, here's my deal. This is what I can't get around. This defense, and let's just talk about the defensive line for a second. This defensive line is baffling. I cannot understand it. You look at the names, you got Donovan Ezeraku, who's a rookie, but as far as what he does is as a defensive end, he's doing well. He's doing his job and a little bit more. Kenny Clark, a staple. He's been successful, has a long career. He's a veteran. He knows what he's doing. Osa, that's another one. Doing his job, what he's here to do. Dante Fowler, that's a name. We're aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
He's been productive, but not so much this year. We've got Jadeveon Clowney, Sam Houston, James Houston, Sam Williams.
Mm-hmm.
We have all these guys, and we still cannot figure out a way to either stop the run or stop the pass. We're always in this situation where we have good personnel, but we have to guess no matter what. Are they going to pass or are they going to run? And they have that ability. And that's the problem is we have to figure out a way to make it where they don't have that ability. They have to run or they have to pass. We have got to figure out a way to get offenses in that situation. We haven't been able to do it consistently, and I don't understand it. There are less talented defenses out there in the league that are much more successful than our defensive line. I cannot figure it out. You look at this list of names and their production, and you're like, how is this happening? It's so confusing. Quinnen Williams, obviously the best player at his position right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's a mild bit of debate, but it's the truth. Not questioning that. Until he's here and I see what he can do for the defensive line, I'm skeptical on it. I think it's a great trade. It's a great investment. I'm not questioning the player. So when you hear me saying that, it's not against the trade at all. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There's something about our defensive line and the way it's played in the first half of the season that I can't understand. And I'm hoping that a Quinnen Williams coming in can fix it and solidify it because we haven't been able to do it with the big names that we've put on this defensive line. Fowler, according to last year, it's a big name. Kenny Clark, several seasons, that's a big name. Jadeveon Clowney, that's a perennially talented player. So it's like, what is going on?
Yeah, sorry to our viewers. If I'm turning my head, I got my dog in the background, and she's playing for toy and squeaking it and all that. So I'm trying to tell her to relax on it or back over there. But yeah, so what you're questioning is more of the defensive scheme of Matt Eberflus with our defensive tackles and our defensive ends.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Is it the scheme? I mean, I don't know what it is. You know what I mean? Something's off.
Well, at this point, we get to like week 11, week 12, and we're fully healthy, and you can't make something work with this defense. You got to look at the coordinator, and I kind of think that's what maybe Jerry's pointing at to here. He's like, hey, I brought the assets in, I brought in everything that we need to push this defense to be better. Like, yes, we're not the greatest, but we can be better. And if you can't make it work to where we're not 25, or at least not in these games where it's like, oh, Dak Prescott, please go score one more time, or Dak, hey, we need you to score on every drive. And if you mess up one drive, or if it's a field goal, we lose. Like, we have to go 7 for 7, 7 touchdowns, 49-42, and we win. If we're still in those kind of games at this point, then pack your bags, get ready for a draft show and a free agency show, because we're moving on to the draft show and moving on to 2026. Because at the end of the day, I do feel that these two moves are built for next year, but you have a chance to build momentum and at least push forward for this year. That's my belief with it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, and this is just my opinion, I think a lot of people make that mistake that they're like ready to pack it up and go to next year, and that's just not the way my mind works. It ain't over until it's over.
Oh, I
right?
agree.
And next year, we could have a super awesome defense and draft a bunch of guys, and we're like, yeah. And then, we go out there and, the leader of our team takes a smack on the first play of the game, and we got an Aaron Rodgers kind of situation,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, that's another year shot. So it's like, let's not worry about that. We're not out of it yet. We have a productive enough team that if we can solidify some of the leaks in this boat, we have a chance this year. So let's not think about what we can do with what we have next year. Let's think about what we can do with what we have right now. Let's get this team going.
Yeah.
The offense is capable. This is a playoff caliber offense. This is a championship offense when it's doing what it's supposed to do. And it's had some bumps over the past couple of weeks, but I just think that's because we don't have the ability to play balanced football. We got a defense that, man, as soon as you see what they're giving you, you're like, it takes the heart out of you, man. You can't help but, be affected by it. So it's just one of those things where, I really hope that this does something for the defense and this bye week pays off and installing these two new trades and what we have, the cavalry's been on its way. So the cavalry's here. From what we understand, the cavalry has arrived. The help is coming. It's here now.
Yeah.
So with the new lineup and the new potential of options that we would have as a defense with five-man fronts and having three guys down and a couple guys standing up, there's a lot more we can do with the talent that we have. So I really don't want anybody to start thinking about next year. I think it's way too early for that.
Yeah, because if you look at it, right, we're on our bye week this current moment, and then we're at Las Vegas on Monday night. Then you got Philly on Fox, which I'm sure they'll probably put as America's Game of the Week because of the trades Dallas made, and they'll probably put some hype behind that. And then we have Kansas City on Thanksgiving. I mean, what's best case scenario? 2-1? I mean, of course, we would love to go 3-0, but what do you think is our best case scenario at that point?
Man, so here's the way I'm looking at this. We've got a one game season after the bye week,
Yep.
right? We absolutely 100% without a doubt must beat Las Vegas.
Yes.
Okay? If we beat Las Vegas, that gives us a 3 game season. Okay? So we beat Las Vegas, and then we've got to deal with the Eagles, the Chiefs on Thanksgiving, and then we've got the Lions
Yeah,
right
you're
after that.
at Detroit.
Right, at Detroit. That is going to be a tough game at our best, offensively and defensively.
Mm-hmm.
Detroit does not like us, right? There's bad blood between the teams. They want to show us dominance.
Yeah.
We get everybody's best. We're the Dallas Cowboys. You watch the Arizona Cardinals look like a college football team today, but they played us like it was a Super Bowl last week.
Yep.
It's just the way it goes. It's insane. But here's my point. I think that the Eagles, despite having a great record, are not a perfect team. They make mistakes. They are beatable. You
Yeah.
can beat them. And we play them well typically. The Chiefs, a very good team. That's a team. But they're flawed too. They're not super healthy. They've lost players. Some of them are getting older. They can still fight, but they're not perfect either. They're a beatable team. Detroit is the juggernaut that we have facing in this upcoming season that I'm speaking of. So I think that it would be really nice to walk out of the next 4 games, starting with Vegas, with 3 wins somehow. That
Yeah.
is the best case scenario, I feel.
Yeah. I mean,
2-2 would be okay,
mm-hmm.
but we really need to win 3 to get us into that next part of the schedule where we have some games that might be a little bit more fitting for where we're at. And by the time we get to those games, maybe we will have something strung together with the defense and some of our players that are going to be coming back will get into rhythm by then. But yeah, the offense is definitely going to have to click over the next 4 weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely a challenging. The month of November shall be very challenging when it comes to all this. The biggest thing I notice, and this is what scares me, is I'm hoping that when it comes to the players that we have coming back, especially with Overshown and Ravel, I want them to play as much as they can, and I truly, fully believe that they're ready to come in and play probably the max amount of snaps. But I don't, I don't want them to push it, and then you lose Overshown for the rest of the year again, and then on the next year, right? Because he's been hurt every year, right? And then Ravel too. Like when it comes to putting them out there at corner, don't force him to go out there the first play of the game and play against someone really tough, right? Like maybe we need to put him on the second string guy or third string guy just because I want to work his confidence up. Don't destroy Ravel before we even get a chance to really work with him.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm with you there. That's kind of where I have him in the depth chart too.
Okay.
Basically,
Yeah.
we've got.
Let's get
Yeah, you
into
want me to
it. Let's
cover
get into the
that?
depth chart.
Yeah, all right. So here's where I'm at. This would be the starting lineup as a 4-3 defense if we decided to just run our base defense.
Yep.
So we've got Donovan, we've got Kenny, we've got Quinnen, we've got Dante, with a heavy rotation of Jadeveon Clowney, just because they're both very capable, very experienced. Jadeveon Clowney is a different animal depending on what kind of offense we're competing against. He's an enigma as far as size for a defensive end. He's very tall, he's very long, and he has the ability to kind of spring around pretty good. So it just really would depend. I wouldn't say one would start over the other. I actually prefer Jadeveon,
Okay.
but I've got Dante in that spot right now. Then at our linebacker situation, obviously I've got Logan Wilson in the middle with Shamar James as the Sam, and I've got Damone Clark and Demarion and Maurice Dish all kind of
Sharing.
splitting the will with that thing you just said in mind, that I don't want Overshown to go out there because I know what kind of player he is. He's going to give you 100%
Yeah.
every play.
Great player.
And yeah. And I think that with Logan being out there, that's really going to help take away some of the labor of the middle linebackers. He's going to control the middle of it, so that pretty much splits it, so that the guys that are out there with them have a little bit less workload on them instead of trying to cover that whole middle of the field. It gives them a little less, which puts a little less pressure on them. So I think that Shamar and Kenneth or Damone or Maurice
Yeah.
and Overshown can all manage those
Do
duties pretty
we?
well.
Do we? Sorry. Before we go on to the secondary, talk to me about Green Dot. Do you think Logan Wilson coming out of the bye is going to be the Green Dot guy, or is that where Kenneth Murray still holds his spot because he?
No,
Okay.
no, not at all. I listened to everything that Logan Wilson has said since this even happened, and then I went back into some of the past. You know, he's one of those guys who's going to study the playbook.
Yeah.
He's going to figure out what's going on. He's going to learn the opponent, and he's going to bring it into the film studies and the sessions and the meetings with his teammates. He's going to know what's going on, and
Okay.
that's that. Like I said earlier, that's the biggest problem is we don't have one player on that defense that everybody goes
It's
and right. Yeah, they're pointing this way, and that one's pointing this way, and this one's telling him to go back, and it's going across from cornerbacks, which is
you ever
insanity.
you
There's
ever
got to be
seen
one guy
yeah.
in the middle, right? And I think that's what he's going to be. That right there is a huge thing because what were they saying in week 3, week 4? We need to simplify things more, simplify calls and
Hmm.
coverages more. That's bad.
Yeah.
This ain't rocket science at this point for these guys. So hopefully that's the component that he's going to bring, that's going to be the biggest help for us as far as the defense goes. Yeah, he's a player, he's an athlete, he's good. He will hit you. He goes full bore. He's very good at being where he needs to be, and he can see the plays coming. That's great. But get everybody else on track too.
Yeah.
That's the biggest component. If he can do that, we're fine out there with any of the linebackers that we have outside of Jack Sanborn, just because I believe he's injured at the moment.
Yeah.
But my favorable lineup for the linebackers would be DeMarvion at will, Logan at middle, and Shamar James at Sam.
Yeah, that's what you really brought Logan Wilson in for too. On top of everything else, is that leadership
Yes,
aspect because he's been a part of
exactly.
that 2021 Bengals, Super Bowl team, and he's been a part of those teams. And I know everyone's criticizing him because he's like, oh, well, he's a backup for a bad defense, and it's like, well, I mean, I, yeah, I just don't know what people expect. But anyways, I'm gonna move on from that. I'm just hoping that he brings that leadership aspect for our other linebackers and is able to control a huddle on the defense. And Quinnen Williams could bring that too, but I'm really looking to Logan Wilson to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Quentin Williams is going to bring the motor and the heart. You know what
Yes.
I mean? He's just going to bring that the wild man and the strength of the line in the trenches, and
Hmm.
that's great. I'm so excited to have Quentin Williams, and I'm just worried that people listening to this going to think I'm dogging the trade. You just have to understand where I'm coming from because I'm totally not. I
You just don't
know
want to
he's going
waste
to be
him. You gave up
right.
asset.
I
You gave
know
up
he's
valuable. Yeah.
yes. I know he's a force. I know he's going to be a force. I know he has been a force.
Yeah.
Can he do it? Here. That's what we need.
Yeah.
All right.
It's yeah, you gave up so much valuable. You gave up a good amount of assets to go get somebody. So Cowboys this year, you only got 2 first round picks. You have no second, no third. So you're going one. You got 2 first round picks, then you're going straight to the fourth rounder. Which I'm not even sure if we have the fourth rounder. I'm assuming we do because I know the third was for George Pickens and the second was for Quinnen. And
Right.
then the year after is you're giving up your best 1st round pick for him too. So it's not a matter of yes, he's a force and we know that, but Dallas has had a tendency to not utilize players correctly. And that's what the
Right.
problem was in years past with the offense, right? It's like why do you practice all these awesome and crazy plays in training camp, Mike McCarthy, and preseason? You do these awesome things and say, oh, Turpin's gonna be a huge part of this, but you never see Turpin.
Yeah.
Or hey,
Right.
Rico Daddle is a great running back, and we're going to use him. And then all of a sudden, you're like, oh, we're going to force Zeke and Dalvin Cook for the first 4 weeks, and that's what Dallas has a tendency to do, and that's what the worry is
Right.
with Quinnen Williams. You know, Logan Wilson's going to play, and you know Quinn Williams is going to play, but can Quinnen Williams be the impact that we're looking for because we gave up the assets to do it, and can coaching staff, pointing at you, Matt Eberflus, you make him work because Jerry gave up a lot to do it.
Right. And I think people fall in love with these fantasy picks in their head about, using that one draft pick to pick this, this new player that's just going to be, Hall of Fame career and he's going to be a staple of the team for the next 5, 7 years. You know, those things rarely ever happen. You know, the market is what the market is, and the
Mm-hmm.
value of a pick is what you need and what you can get for it. I will take a guaranteed playmaker every day of the week for a
Exactly.
first round pick. Just because it's a first round pick does not mean you're going to get what you need for that pick. Getting a known quantity for a first round pick is a massive advantage versus the potential for a great player on a first round pick,
Yeah.
right? There's picks every year that go top 10 that never amount to anything.
Well, I mean,
Nothing's guaranteed unless it is. And in this case, it's guaranteed. You're
well,
guaranteed productivity out of Quinnen Williams for your first round
yeah.
pick.
And Dallas, I mean, I don't know what the realization has come to. Maybe it's Jerry's age. I mean, that's what people are pointing to. But look at Dallas's draft history when it comes to defensive ends and D tackles. It has not been good. Micah
Right.
Parsons is not counting that equation because he was a
Uh,
linebacker who was drafted to be a linebacker and then was
uh,
converted to a defensive end by,
Tristan.
yeah. Like, we had Mozzie, and then you had, what was his
Taco.
name? Taco, and
Taco
then you had
Charlton. Yeah. Tristan.
Tristan. Yep. You
Yeah.
like we're not good at this. We're not Dallas is not good at evaluating it for whatever reason. Now people are going to say, "Oh, Micah Parsons was a great DN," but that was not what Dallas drafted him for. He drafted to be a linebacker. We were hurting so bad defensive end, they put him
And,
there, and all of a sudden
whoa.
became a
Yeah.
game
Whoa.
wrecker.
Whoa. You said linebacker. Whoa. And what are we needing the most every season? It seems like.
A linebacker.
Right. So it's
So
like there's all kinds of layers to this, and that's what's crazy about it. Yeah, we traded Micah Parsons. It is what it is. He's gone.
the trade kind of
But
looks
it
better.
it does look better. But it gives a lot more options. We have a
Yeah.
lot more flexibility now, and we've been able to do some things that we would not be able to do, to keep Micah. And that's business sometimes. It is what it is. He is a hell of a player. He always will be. But it's at what price is acceptable
Well,
for you?
the pass rushing is no good if you can't stop the run, because that's the only way you can set up Micah Parsons to be great is to stop the run. So if you got no one your linebackers and your defense tackles can't stop nobody, which has happened the past 2 years, in
You
23.
don't need a pass rusher.
Yeah, in 2023, it was so hidden because we played so well and we were able to get leads quick enough to, just put teams in bad situations. But you got exposed in that Green Bay game. Oh, let's go
Right.
back to 2022. Christian McCaffrey killed you. 2021, everyone was like, wow, San Fran's so physical. Where did this physical team come from? And they beat you with the run. And last year, remember the first 3 games? Let's talk about Alvin Kamara and, Derrick Henry and, all that. And
Yep.
I will give Jerry credit where credit's deserved, as at least with the trades he's making, he's targeting things that he knows his front office is bad at. But what will come down to is one, if you keep Eberflus, let's say next year, but this defense does not improve, you're being ignorant.
Right.
But at the same time, it's a 50-50 shot. What happens if you bring in a different defense coordinator? Are you going to make your defensive guys learn a whole new scheme again? I don't know. It's kind of a tough spot on the defensive side, and all you can do is keep bringing in talent and hope that Eberflus is like, okay, yes, we're getting to my scheme now. I'm proving that, hey, if you give me another year, we're gonna be really good at this. And this first year was like training wheels.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a personnel issue.
Yeah,
A guy doesn't stay in this league and get promoted into positions and have tenure at places
yeah,
being a bad coach.
yeah,
And the Dallas Cowboys are a professional corporate organization. They do not hire people they do not feel are qualified. People have to understand that. It's a business at the end of the day. So Eberflus is qualified to do this job. It falls on him, unfortunately. But when you watch when we lose, players are getting attacked. You can tell that the game plan was meant to do that. There is no amount of coaching or scheming that makes up for just inexperience or inability.
yep,
And that's part of the problem, right? So hopefully, like you said it perfectly. Jerry is saying, okay, when you cannot figure out what the problem is, you just start solving all the problems until, you have an understanding, right? So that's where we're at. We're plugging players in. We're getting better wherever we can. We're going to see what the issue is. It's a personnel issue at the end of the day.
yep,
That's my personal feeling.
yeah.
So
I
to
can
finish
agree.
off the depth chart, because we didn't make past linebacker. This is where things get tricky. This is the most important part because we didn't
Yep,
get any upgrade here.
yeah,
We got an upgrade to levels 1 and 2, but level 3. If you have success at levels 1 and 2, level 3 become, you know, hopefully not so worrisome. But
yeah.
so here's what I've got for my starting corners. Tell me if you agree with this. I went back and forth with this a few times.
Yep.
But my starting corners are Deron Bland, Kalen Carson, and Reddy Stewart.
Okay. And Stewart's in the nickel.
That's correct.
Okay.
The reason why I did that is obviously Deron Bland is who he is.
Mm-hmm.
Kalen Carson is a known quantity here in Dallas. We know what he is. When he was on the field, he's done a pretty good job for us. Reddy Stewart has played well enough that I think he deserves his opportunities. And I think that is the strongest front that we can use right now. I am very, very excited for Savone Rebel.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot wait to see what he brings. I do not want to put him in a situation where he's got to come out day one and have to prove who he is under a high pressure situation on a bad defense in November. I
Yeah.
do not want that for him. That does not bode well. So putting him behind Deron Bland, he can come in. He's going to get shots taken at him. It won't be shot after shot after shot. He can play the relief position for a little bit, get his feet underneath him, get used to the speed of the game again, and get a little bit of an education. Kalen Carson, I think he's solid enough that if we have Donovan and Malik both back as our safeties, I'm not sure about Malik yet. I think he'll be back. I'm hoping he'll be back. But I think that does take some of the pressure off. Malik's a veteran. He knows what he's supposed to do, and he can kind of keep an eye on Kalen down there. And then I think, we put Kyrie behind him and, CJ Goodwin or Bridges or even Josh Butler when he eventually gets back. You can rotate them in at that nickelback position as well. But that's where I've got everybody sitting right now. I've got Wanye and Marquise both behind Donovan and Malik, and Elijah Clark's back there too. Obviously, we'd like to have Trayvon Diggs back. I do not know what the status of that is going to be. Having Deron and Trayvon and Revel or Reddy or Kalen in Nickelback would be the optimal position. I just don't think that's very likely, so that's why I said it this way.
Yeah, I agree. I love Stewart in the nickel. He is a downhill hitter. Every time I see a running play that starts to bounce to the outside, he's the first one to get his hands dirty. Bland, you paid him. He's going to have to fit wherever you want him to fit. And I think, unfortunately, for the rest of the year, with Diggs on IR, if he even comes back, whether that's personal drama or an actual injury, Bland's going to have to play the outside. And really, that cornerback 2 spot's open for whoever's hot. If it's Kalen Carson's who's hot, it's yours. If it's Josh Butler when he gets back, it's yours. If it's Kyrie Elam, it's still your spot to take. I really think the only 2 secured spots are Bland and Stewart. I think those are 2 guys I'm like, don't touch. But Bridges, even Ravel, right? It's who's the hot hand, Eberflus, put him at cornerback 2. Cornerback 1, nickel, don't touch it. Those guys have proven themselves so far over the past couple weeks.
Sure, 100%.
And then safety-wise, again, I'd say you play hot hands. Hooker, Donovan Wilson are probably going to be the guys I say. But, if Wanye Thomas happens to be a better proving hand, then play it. But
yeah,
this secondary, you got to just play who's hot and who's going to create those stops and not allow anything over your head, not allow these comeback routes every time, be able to challenge the wide receiver and give that pass rush and those linebackers time to do what you traded for them for and signed them for during the offseason.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing about the secondary is getting Malik Hooker back out on the field.
Yeah.
He's been our long time secondary general back there. He knows what he's supposed to do, and he can really help these players. But when you've got young, inexperienced corners, young, inexperienced linebackers, and a young, inexperienced secondary who are converted players anyway, you're just looking to get carved up. And that's what's been happening, because we don't have enough pressure and we don't have control of the middle. So we're just going to get beat up at all levels. At least this way, we get control of the trenches, we get control of the mid, and then we have someone over the top that keeps everything in front of us. That at least makes it very specific where we can be targeted. And that's, outside the seams between 10 and 20 yards.
Yeah.
I can live with that. But when everything's open and we don't even know if they're going to pass, they may run it. That's how we're getting beat. It's the truth.
The thing is we get to third down so much on this defense. Like, there's so many times I'm like 3rd and 8, or you get to like the Cardinals game, you get to like 2nd and like 19, and then they get a 20-yard pass, and you're like, guys, like 20 yards. I mean, at 10, sure, I can say we're playing soft, but 20 yards and it's just a right. And you called it out during the game we were watching it. You were like, Murray, drop deeper. Like, McBride's right behind you. He's just
Right
filling
over
the
his head.
gap. Yes. And he's all, ooh, like, you're not Odell'ing it. You look
Right.
behind you. But, anyways, I'm not
And
talking
that's
about
what
that part
happened at the
anymore.
beginning of the season. Everything went over our heads. So all these young guys are getting coached, and during practice, keep it in front of you. Make sure it stays in front of you. Don't let anything over your head. So now they're letting everything happen in front of them, thinking that they've done a good job, but not letting it go over their head. But it's like,
Yeah.
no, you still got to kind of, you got to contest every pass here, guys. You can't just let them catch it and tackle them and think you've done well.
Yeah.
And, I'm sure it's not that simple, but, that's how it looks. It's
Yeah.
just like, come on, man. You still got to go up and swat the ball, make a hit, make it tough for them. You can't just let them, turn around with a hitch route and catch it and then grab their ankles and you're going to
Yeah.
score every time. Eventually you're going to run out of room, and then there's the end zone that's in front of you, and they're going to throw it in there, and that's bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this unlocks a bunch of stuff. So we've got rotational energy like crazy, because nobody says we have to put Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams in at the same time. Nobody says that we can't have Kenny Clark, Quinnen Williams, and Osa Digizua all down down at the same time and run a 5 front offense with those 3 guys down and 2 guys standing up and our linebackers. And you got Demarion and Logan Wilson back there, with Jadeveon, Solomon Thomas, Sam Williams, or Donovan Ezeraku. I mean, there's so many great combinations that we can now run with this that we're always going to have a strong, fresh player. I mean, I've been really impressed with Solomon Thomas.
Yeah.
So you could
It's been
bring him
great.
out there with Kenny and put Oso with Quinnen, and we've always got someone fresh coming in. You can get a NASCAR package out of this now between Donovan, Solomon Thomas, Jadeveon Clowney, Maurice Luafau, James Houston. I mean, these are all quick twitch guys that get off the line really, really fast. There are a lot of options that we can change out of this 4-3 with what we have, coming in. So I'm really, really excited to see what else we can do, because it's not so far on my opinion, it hasn't been a talent issue on the front line. It's just been getting the right guys out there at the right time when we need them to do what they got to do. And that's been the biggest issue.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, I mean I'm excited for what's to come. But do you have anything else?
as far as the depth chart, no, I'm spent on that. I will do a little breakdown on Logan Wilson this week and get that
Yeah,
out. But I'm just really excited. I hope that everybody we've been expecting to come back comes back. If we can do that by the time we play the Chiefs and they've had just a little bit of time to practice together, I think it makes a big, big difference
yeah,
with everything that's available to us. You start looking at this defense with those guys up front as starters, and you start to kind of think you have something.
yeah. Well, before we wrap it up here, the one last thing I'd like to do, just so we can talk about it, just would like to put from Cowboys Game Plan to Marshawn Nealon's family, we'd like to put our prayers and thoughts and just know that rest in peace, brother, because that's
Yeah,
is an
we're all
unfortunate
suffering with you.
situation. Yeah,
That is a heartbreaking thing, and just it's terrible.
yeah. So I just wanted to mention that our thoughts and prayers are with you and your family, and yeah, don't be afraid to ever reach out and talk to somebody because the mind can be a tricky thing. But
Absolutely.
until next time, we're gonna do those film breakdowns. I'll do probably Quinn Williams. He'll probably do Logan Wilson, and we'll get back to you for hopefully a pregame for the Raiders. Until next time, this is the game plan.